Hi, BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to film for you guys a tag video. Although there are several different versions of this when I looked for this tag on BookTube. And so hopefully I'll find the right one when I share the link with you guys. I'll just sort of pay attention to what the questions are when I not just go by the title alone. And I'm just doing again, another attempt at a thumbnail. I just get what really is that whatever books are made out of, their material is so slippery. And it's so hard to do a thumbnail if you have like a handful of books. Because then they end up sliding on top of each other. So, and actually some of these are the only ones that I have, because some of these answers I don't actually have the physical copy of the book, and I've said it before that I don't know how to show the image on the screen of that book. So, but I only changed one answer. So this is the Disney Princess tag, and of course, because it's Disney related questions, it's so there are so many different versions of Disney inspired questions that I have to make sure I pay attention to what the questions are before I send you the link to the tag. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But okay. So the first question is Snow White, your favorite classic? And I went with, because I didn't want to once again say, oh my god, I haven't even started and these stupid books are already sliding. Just put this on the floor. Okay. No. Books. I love books, but they are so slippery. So I didn't want to say Jane Eyre again, and I didn't want to say Great Gatsby again. So I'm picking a more recent favorite. Recent as in it's been a couple years since I read it, and I do want to reread it again. And I think I might do that this year. Is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a classic about a student in Russia, and he is in terrible debt. I'm sure a lot of college students can relate to it. And he decides to solve his problems by committing a crime, and he will be able to collect the money from that crime he committed. Either steal from the person or, ransom money or something like that. I'm trying not to spoil it because usually when I talk about this book, I sometimes wonder if I actually spoil it by telling you exactly what the crime is that he commits. And it's about his guilt and how he deals with that, how he can't seem to cope with it after he commits the crime, and also his personal issues come into play with his relationship with his family, and of course the sun comes out, and I'm going to have to run. Which, I like running, but the problem is running, I have to prepare myself, and then when I get back from my run, I gotta take a shower, and I have to make sure I go running at a certain time, and it's just kind of a hassle to do the whole, my run, because it's not like going to the gym, and, but anyway, sorry, I got distracted because as you guys know, my window is right here. So he solves the problem. So it's all about him dealing with his guilt, and it kind of drives him crazy. And he's worried he's going to get caught. But then he also has personal family drama because his sister is being blackmailed by two men who are into her and want to marry her. And she even gets a third romance in the story, actually. Someone else is in love with her. But it's really good. And now, I don't think Dostoevsky's writing is for everybody because he can get a little philosophical. And like a lot of classic authors, he does get a little wordy and stuff. And it's just, but I personally loved it, which I was kind of surprised that I loved it. But I did. It's one of my favorites, and I definitely want to reread it again. Okay, why'd it have to get sunny now? Why can't it stay gloomy all day? Okay, so question number 2. A book that you read past your bedtime. And this is the one where I don't have the book with me. This is the only answer I gotta think of because it was last year. And that is Finale by Stephanie Garber, the third and final book. It is the finale, not just by the title, but it literally is the finale of this trilogy by Stephanie Garber, the Caraval trilogy. This is a trilogy about two sisters who their mom died when they were real young, and they are raised by their father, who's an abusive jerk, to the point of if one of them does something bad, he will punish the other one as punishment to the sister who did the bad thing. And one day, and their whole life, they have always dreamed about going to this fantastic traveling carnival called Caraval, which is basically a game. And they have been writing to him for years, but one day they just both stopped writing to him because as they got older, because he never responded. And one day the one sister, Scarlet, the oldest, she's given the opportunity by the father to marry a complete stranger, and thinking, oh, well, my dad picked this guy, but at least it gets my chance to get away. And she has all these romantic notions about this guy, even though she doesn't know him. So her younger sister, Donatella, decides to try to write to Caraval one more time. And she receives a response from the guy who hosted the mysterious legend. And he invites them with him, with one of his assistants, who disguises himself as a sailor, makes a deal with Tella and offers to escort them. But things go wrong really quickly because Tella ends up getting kidnapped, and it turns out that she is the game. Finding Donatella is the way to win the game. So Scarlet is forced to play the game with the sailor Julian. And with this game, unfortunately, with the Caraval game, you can't trust anything, and it's all like it's a bit of a treasure hunt, and nothing is what it seemed. And there's always like you have to make deals and make sacrifices. There's always, as Rumpelstiltskin says, there's always a price. And it's a 3-book series. I know not everybody loves it, but I personally still love it to this day. And a lot of people do not like Scarlet's character because she's very overly cautious and overly protective, and has some trust in while Tella is the more adventurous and spontaneous, romantic, and she's also the more practical one and just, and not as romantic as her sister. So I like Scarlet as a character. And I love Tella too. And I will talk more about my sisters in another question on here. But the 3rd book had me at the edge of my seat. I was biting my nails. I had to keep going. I didn't know what was going to happen to the characters. The antagonists were so intriguing and creepy, especially the Prince Jax. And his, particularly with his power to control your mind, to make you, and if you make a deal with him and seal it with a kiss, then he will have you under his spell. And it's really creepy. And he constantly tries to go after Tella because she's destined to be his true love and redeem him, And I just had to keep going because first of all, I was very nervous for Tella. I did not want her to end up with him. And, there were so many things happening. And both girls basically, although Tella was still heavily featured more than Scarlet, which I was a little disappointed by. But I still, enjoyed the book. I still had such a good time and I wanted to keep going. I love all the new characters, especially some of the new characters that develop a lot more in the last book. And I would love to go to Caraval. I mean, I wouldn't want to put my life on the line, but, the mystery of Caraval, the magic and the whimsy of it. But the creepy factor would be a little unnerving, though. So, next is Aurora, your favorite classic romance. And I originally said John Thornton and Margaret Hale, but I'm trying to keep my answers to books I have, unlike the last question. So I have 2 answers. I have my original answer, which is John Thornton and Margaret Hale, from North and South, which is by Elizabeth Gaskell, not the Jonathan Jakes novel. I remember when I first got into this novel, and I saw the miniseries first. And every time I would bring it up and share with people, there would be my friends on Facebook were like, "Oh, you mean the Jonathan Jakes novel?" It's like, no, I'm not telling you the stupid Civil War novel. No, I mean, I haven't read, so I can't really call it stupid, but I'm sure it's a great movie. It's just, I was like, no, there's more than just American novels out there. There's British epic sagas too, But anyway, that was just me being, annoyed. And the North and South is very much like Pride and Prejudice, but it's not upper class versus middle upper class. It's more like it's North versus the South. Like our main character Margaret is from the south of England, and her father has quit his job as a minister because he doesn't believe in what their values anymore. So he quits and uproots Margaret and his wife to the big city of Milton, an industrial town, and both her and her mother are not happy, but Margaret decides to make the best of the situation, and you have and the father gets a new job as a teacher, and one of his students is a factory owner who's also the person who kind of helped the family out get their new home and stuff. The Thorntons, John Thornton, and it's just him and his mother and their sister. And he's a self-made businessman, but he's kind of hard-hearted a little bit and kind of pretty, tough on his employees. And Margaret does not appreciate that. So and she is much more soft-hearted and passionate and, get up in your face and stand up for the rights of everybody and make sure everybody's treated equal. And he is a capitalist and just is very much a businessman and figures, well, I would rather protect the overall than just worry about one individual's feelings, essentially. And but I love this couple. They're so great. I love it even more than I love Pride and Prejudice, of course, like everybody else. That every Jane Austen fan loves, every classics reader loves Pride and Prejudice. But I kind of like North and South a little bit better. Their romance, Margaret and John's relationship is more interesting and more more engaging to me. And the whole subplot of being in an industrial town versus like being in the comfortable south of England, and just how things get complicated and messy, especially when it comes to when it comes to business. It's not, if you run a business, you kind of have to balance. It's a hard balance to have between wanting to help, considering your employees and wanting to make sure they're well taken care of without coddling them either. And, and trying to be a good businessman and protect your business. Because he still needs his family still needs to be taken care of. And it's a very complicated but very beautiful romance, I think. Because with their differences and everything. And, like Pride and Prejudice, they grow to love each other and understand each other's differences and support each other and just, it's so sweet and so romantic. In my opinion. Okay, next. Oh, and the other one, I forgot I had another classic romance that I actually ended up deciding to put on there as well, so I can actually show you guys a book, and that is the romance that blooms in this book. With Eleanor Bold and Mr. Arabin. It's so sweet, and it's also kind of has that Pride and Prejudice, Lizzie Bennet and Darcy and Margaret Hale and Thornton kind of romance, where at first the two people don't necessarily get along right away. They disagree with each other and each other's viewpoints, and slowly things build and they get to know each other. And he at first thinks of her, and then he sees her in he's trying to not have these feelings for her, and he sees her in a not so positive light because it looks like she's making a choice that no one else really approves of. And it's how they grow to understand each other and to realize their judgments of each other are inaccurate. So it's a little bit closer to Pride and Prejudice, I think, with the plot, especially with the plot and the setting, because it's like in a country town and also in the south of England, like in where Margaret Hale used to live. I don't know though. I don't know where this town is, where Barchester would have been set. I'm trying to think of what, because I know it's not Barchester itself isn't real, but it was inspired by a real place, I think. And it's just, and again, they have such a sweet, they really have sweet romance that blooms, and the and it gets, and like with the other two, it gets kind of messy and complicated. But of course, in these kinds of books, it's gonna end happy. Like, that's a given. So I don't think that's a spoiler to say it's gonna end happy for all parties, the people who at least deserve the happiness. Okay, so finally, you can go to the next question. Ariel, a book about making sacrifices and fighting for your dreams. And I said The Last Queen by Sydney Pike, and I still have not read the second book. I do have an arc of it that was given to me by my sister's college friend, who was also a reader, Wendy. But at this point, the second book is already published and stuff, so I don't know what I'm going to do. She says I can do whatever I want with the arc, if I want to keep it or donate it or whatever, and I don't know if I want to do, I don't know if I just want to go ahead and buy the book. I think maybe I should just go ahead and buy it because it's already published, and usually people only get arcs before the books are published, just decide to just make a decision. I mean, it might be better to read the arc anyway, although, then again, it might be good to read the arc so I know, but if I'll like it or not, but I probably will like it because I'm not that hard to please. But anyway. The Lost Queen by Sydney Pike is about the sister of the guy who inspired Merlin from the Arthurian legends. And she wants to be like her brother, the equivalent to whatever magic users are. And she wants to have fun, live her life, and spend, run around and play. She doesn't want to be a queen and a mother of children, get married and stuff. And then as she gets older and develops the ability to fall in love and stuff, the desire to want to be with a man, it's someone that she can't be with because he's a knight, and she is expected to marry a king so that she can protect her family, her own family's kingdom, and preserve their kingdom. And she has to give up the man she really loves and give up her chance to be a person of magic, and whatever the equivalent. I don't remember what they're called. The people who use magic, and it's heartbreaking. You definitely feel bad for her, and the sacrifice she has to have to make, because it's for the sake of the greater good of her kingdom. Okay, so next is my favorite Disney princess, and most bookworms' favorite Disney princess, Belle. A book with a smart, independent female lead. And I do have this series, but I'm not going to get it because the way I stack my books, I stack them horizontally. Not all of them, but some of them I have throughout my bookshelf. Some of my books are in horizontal format, so it's I don't want to I just don't want to grab go through the trouble of pulling it out and then having to put it back in. So, and that is The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. This is an awesome series. A YA sci-fi retelling of some classic fairy tales. And the first book starts with Cinderella, who I would say is probably the main character, but I feel like there are quite a few. There's 4 main characters, 4 female leads. Cinder is the first one. She's supposed to be Cinderella. That's why she's called Cinder. And she's living with her step family. What makes her so independent and smart is her step family, of course, treats her like crap as in the original Cinderella story, except for one of the sisters is actually nice to her and kind and friendly to her. But, she is a mechanic, so she's good with her, fixing things. And she was able to tweak the family android, Aiko, and she and Aiko become friends, best buds. And she is able to, she learns how to run, be captain of a ship. She learns to, handle a ship. Although, someone else becomes captain later in the second book. And she, kind of has to take care of herself in a way. And she owns a business. Like, she's a mechanic, so she runs a business. And she is awesome, like, badass. She's a cyber, is it a cyborg? I think, someone who has robotic body parts, that's what she has. So she's kind of a human computer. Like, she can, find things and research things because she has computer parts that are part of her body, because there was an accident where she got put on, where she was on, there's something that happened to her, that an accident that resulted in her body being messed up, so they had to replace a lot of her body parts. And then you have, in the second one, is Scarlet, the Little Red Riding Hood retelling. And this girl, she's street smart. And she helps her grandmother run the family farm. And she works as and she's learned to take care of herself, just like Cinder. And she's tough and, is strong and confident. And, although she does have a bit of a temper. And then you have my girl, Cress, who is, like, she's not socially smart. She's, like, not good with she's lived isolated in a satellite her whole life, but she's good with computers and surveillance, and she's, because of that, she has to learn how to, she is used by the evil queen to spy on the people on Earth, and she's able to get information on Cinder because they recruit her to spy on Cinder and the people that are with her. And also she can avoid getting brainwashed and controlled by the lunar gift, because she's a shell. Now, granted, it's not because she's independent and stuff and smart and everything, but it's just because she's a shell. Unfortunately, she can't be affected by the gift, or she doesn't have the gift, the lunar gift. So she's smart in a bookish way, in a computer kind of way. And then the last one is Winter, and Winter she's a little bit different, because she refuses to use the lunar gift to control people and to brainwash them, because at first she thinks she's helping people when she first is able to start using it, or is old enough to start using it, and then she ends up realizing the hard way that it can cause some damage and hurt people, innocent people, so she stops using it, and unfortunately if the lunar stops using their gift, that makes them a little crazy. It messes with them mentally, but she is able to adapt, and she's still kind of able to hold on to at least most of her sanity. And she says things that don't make sense to others, but she's stating things that do in a way make sense, like, not when you at first glance. But she's a very deep thinker and a kind and caring person, and she kind of learns to, and she figures things out, can know how to figure things out and know how to adapt and survive, and, even though she's someone who's very vulnerable and easily hurt, she knows she has faith in people, and she trusts people that, and, like, she like I said, she figures things out on her own. Like, you don't underestimate her. She's someone that you could easily underestimate her, but I think she deserves more credit than she gets. And so that's the question number 5. Question number 6 is Jasmine, a book with a main character who challenges the social norms of their society. And I said, well, all of the characters from this series, from this book, not series, it's one of Sexiana series, but, I said, but I'm only mainly focused on the first character we meet, and that is Miriam from Spinning Silver. Miriam is a Jewish girl. Her father's a moneylender, but because of the views of the Jewish people and the, criticisms of them and the stereotypes, her father tries to help their neighbors. He's very lenient on them and very kind to the neighbors. and lets them off the hook. But unfortunately, at the cost of their family always constantly being in debt, her mom struggling taking care of them. And so Mary is just tired of this. She wants her family to not be put like second anymore. She wants her family to be taken care of, and not. So she decides, she learns her father's business and ends up being really good at it, to the point of where they say she makes gold into silver or something like that. And it gives her this reputation. People don't like her in her village. And her parents are ashamed of her, but she's like, I don't care. I am trying to help our family be taken care of financially, because we are poor, because father is too nice to these people. And she just stops caring, and she's not like, she hardens her heart in a way. She does everything and people just give her a hard time for it, but she doesn't care. And because of her skills with finance and stuff, she's recognized by the Fae of this world, and they wanted the Winter Prince decides to take her and hold her prisoner and do what in the original story of Rumpelstiltskin, because it's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, and he's like, okay, well, you need to make all this stuff I have here into gold or whatever. And so she learns to adapt to her current environment, and learns to, take care of herself and figure out how to survive in this world, and even finds ways around their whole, we must speak the truth, but we'll dance around the truth kind of mentality, because they are Fae, and that's how Fae can be. They can't lie, but they will dance around the truth. And book. Damn it! You said it didn't slip far away. Okay. And all of the girls in this story are, I think, challenge societal norms and stuff. And it also got me thinking about the book that I often feel is very similar to this, that I compare to, and that is the Winter Night Trilogy, where it's kind of similar, where our main character challenges, in that series, Vasya challenges the rules of society. They expect her to get married and live like a young Christian lady, and she stays loyal to their beliefs, her village's former beliefs, and she acts like a tomboy. She runs around and plays and gets dirty and does not act like a lady at all. And she even falls in love with the demon prince, of which are kind of the fairies of that world, the Winter Night Trilogy, and challenges society, and even manages to scare away the guy who agrees to marry her, and decides she doesn't want to get married throughout by the end. So it's kind of similar deal with that one. And then, but I don't have that book with me, although I'm using that for some other questions on here. So next question is Pocahontas, a book with an ending that has a roller coaster of emotions. And originally I said Royal Assassin, but I think both Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest, which is a sequel by Robin Hobb, are both roller coasters of emotion by the end of their respective books. But I'm going to go with this one, because I had just finished it, and the ending of this one is so heartbreaking, so bittersweet. Fitz is basically taken away from people he considers family, and he realizes after he's taken that he learns to appreciate those people, and realize that they do love him and do care about him, even if they're hard on him. And, he's alone throughout the most of this book. I mean, there are people that try to make friends with him, but he ends up pushing them away. And a lot of characters, a lot of sad things happen to a lot of characters. And some of them don't even know that, some of those that care about Fitz don't even know that he's still alive. It's so heartbreaking. He goes through so much and has to make so many sacrifices and risk his life so many times. And it's very heartbreaking. And I can't wait to read more of his journey. But right now I'm in the middle of Live Ship Traders. Well, I'm actually on the middle of it. I just started it. I just haven't picked it up again lately. And the second book is the same way, so much happens to Fitz. and he's always goes through a lot of shit and is sacrificing a lot. That kid. Okay, so next is Mulan, a book with a kick butt main character, and I do have this book, but again, I don't want to grab it because of the way my books are stacked. But I said Vin from Mistborn. Vin is awesome. She goes from being a street rat, having to survive and part of a group of, criminals and thieves and stuff, and she is eventually taken as an apprentice, taken on to join a group of people that are trying to rebel against the kingdom, and because it's like basically the idea of the bad guy winning. And Vin goes from the first book being like very distrustful and kind of feisty and tough, but also to being like someone who's strong and confident and is a hero and just is a fighter, and she develops and there's the real cool power that the people in this world have, which is the being controlling the metals and using those metals, swallowing metals and using them to, so not controlling metals, but using metals to do certain things like fly or walk or see, in the dark or something, or be a good fighter and also a badass fighter. Vin is my girl. I love Vin. She is awesome, and I definitely that's another one I want to reread, that whole series. And just, she's awesome. Okay, next is Rapunzel, a book featuring an artist, and I picked I picked 3, and here's another one. Oh, I forgot. I can show you guys another. I do have another book in this. First let me tell you the first 2 I said here. Akamath. Freya is a painter, and in fact, her painting connects her to her mate in the story. So I think it's her hobby, and it's her one thing that can soothe her soul and her mind to just keep her relaxed and stuff. And then Woven in Moonlight, our main character is in a world where there are a lot of people who have moonlight power that comes from the moonlight, and she can wave moonlight into tapestries, but also later you discover she has this really cool power of part of that weaving moonlight into tapestries also allows her to create these little animal companions for herself. Really cute and very helpful and very sweet. And, it depends on your definition of being an artist. Because I think the fact that she can weave moonlight into tapestries and to create images, I think that's art. And I wish people could really do that. Okay, so my last suggestion, I just realized I do have the book. Let me get it. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, and so my last one I was thinking about for this, my last answer is Emma by, okay, that was weird. Emma by Jane Austen. And Emma, I did not realize this until watching one of the miniseries, that Emma is an artist. She can draw and paint. She draws and paints. That's one of her hobbies. In fact, she uses it when she's trying to get Mr. Elton to notice Harriet. I can't remember Harriet's last name. She draws a picture. She sketches Harriet for Mr. Elton. Of course, the only reason why Mr. Elton ends up interested in the painting is because it was created by Emma. So he's like, I'm gonna buy. I don't care about the subject. I just care about the artist. I'm gonna buy it because you made it. And I don't know why I didn't realize it, because, in Clueless, which is supposed to be a contemporary retelling of Emma, Cher is a photographer. She takes pictures. She's taking pictures of, Ty, the girl who's supposed to be like the Harriet of the story, and So I didn't know, like I didn't think about that. I didn't put two and two together and think, oh well, that's the modern equivalent to a painter, is a photographer. But it's because it's not put emphasis except for in that one part. And I've seen a lot of the Gwyneth Paltrow version. I have not seen the new one yet. I don't remember ever seeing the scene where Emma does that. But I haven't seen the whole movie all the way through that version. I've seen a good amount of it, but I've never seen the whole way through. So I haven't seen the whole scene. That version of their version of that scene. So I'm totally sorry I forgot about that. I know there are a lot of people who. Sometimes I wonder if you guys are ever bothered by it, or maybe just amused when I get up and show, and I'm walking past the camera to be like, oh, I forgot another book that I want to show you guys. But yes, if you only do it once or twice, then in your videos, I'm mostly unprepared. Sometimes I forget. So okay, and then this next question, Merda. I was trying to saying it how with the Scottish accent, or at least how I suck at that. So a book with a mother-daughter relationship, and I don't know actually if I still have those books. Those books might have been donated, or they might still be in that pile, but I would have to go through those bags, and I just didn't feel like it. But I said The Hazelwood and the Night Country. And I don't know how many books I know that her Tales from the Hinterland just came out, but I don't know if she's going to write any more in this series, if this is going to be a series or a trilogy. But I do want to get Tales from the Hinterland. I do want to check out Tales from the Hinterland. I would really appreciate it if it was at the library, because like I said, I chose to put those books in the donation pile even though I enjoyed them. But now the Night Country focuses more on the mother-daughter relationship, I think, than the Hazelwood. So the Hazelwood is about a girl, Alice. It's just her and her mother, and they are constantly on the run, constantly traveling, moving from place to place, and all she knows, and she kind of starts getting the impression that her mom is running away from her own mother, their grandmother, who is a famous author of a collection of very unique, very different fairy tales. And Alice's mother has always warned her to stay away from her grandmother's estate and stay away from the Hinterland book, the book that her grandmother wrote. But one day, Alice's mother gets kidnapped, and the only evidence of her mother is that, of course, her new stepfamily, her new stepdad and stepsister are kind of beat up and stuff, and there is a page from her grandmother's book. So Alice must find her mother, but she also needs help for someone, because this might have something to do with her grandmother's fairy tale. So she comes across a young man that she goes to school with who is a big fan of her grandmother's work. So he offers to help her, Ellery Finch, and he offers to help her find her mom. And as they're doing this, suddenly weird things start happening, and a lot of these weird characters start showing up, and Ellery recognizes them from her grandmother's fairy tales. And then you have the second one, which is kind of the aftermath of all that, where Alice is trying to forget that whole situation, live a normal life, but she might have to make a decision that will affect her mom as well as her, and might potentially ruin their relationship, might hinder them, and Alice doesn't know what to do, because she loves her mom more than anything, but the choice she has to make will hurt her mom at the same time if she makes a certain choice. So it kind of focuses more on that relationship in the second book. I hope that she writes another book, at least makes this a trilogy, but I don't know. I mean, although she could make it write more books, because it's not one of those stories where you have to immediately read the next book. I feel like it's not like the first book ended on a cliffhanger, and then you have to continue the story. You have to find out what happens next. You have to read the next book. It has a clear ending. It could have been a standalone. It would have been perfectly fine as standalone. I'm sure there are some fantasy readers who are like, you don't need to make another fantasy series. I know a lot of people get kind of when authors there's a lot of fantasy authors usually just keep going with their books and make another book and continue and turn it into a series, and it's a relief when you read a book that's not a series. So it ended in a way that it didn't have to be a series, and the same thing with the second book. But I am really liking it, and I want to see if she's going to continue it and find out what's going to happen. I mean, although the second book, it's less of a, it's less of that whole standalone feel than the first one. Okay, then of course my girls Anna and Elsa. I love these two. I think I love that one more than Rapunzel, actually. I'm always like, because they're both kind of the same Disney, the same animation, and they came out amongst the same group of, these, maybe the new renaissance of Disney, and, so I always compare the two, and always say I love Anna and Elsa more than, Frozen more than Rapunzel. Okay, so that question is, a book with a great sibling relationship. And there's only really one book that I can actually talk about, that I actually have, that I can show you. But the other ones are Winter Night Trilogy. There is Vasya, the main character, that has a lot of siblings, but most of them she loses, with the exception of one older brother and a sister who she's very close with. And by the second book, they barely know each other. And it's so heartbreaking. They have to rebuild their relationship, rebuild this trust, because there's instant distrust between them. And despite that, I love their relationship, the dynamic of these three siblings, because they slowly rebuild the relationship and slowly rebuild the trust within each other. And they love each other fiercely, and just, they are so, they are great. They have a great partnership. And it's interesting to see their dynamic, especially in a world in a society where there's all these rules and stuff, and you have to decide between your family and the greater good. And I think that is very difficult for the older sister. And then the other one I said is the other two were, I said Caraval. Donatello and Scarlet are so, I feel like they're very relatable, because there are a lot of sisters that just don't necessarily get along, don't always agree with each other, and sometimes they're completely opposite of each other, but they love each other so much, and they really care. These two love each other so much and really care about each other, but like I said, they're complete opposites of each other. Scarlet is a romantic, but she's also very cautious and is afraid to take a risk and is trying to do what's best and trying to be practical and sensible at things. And she just wants to stay hidden and just do what needs to be done, but do what's necessary to protect her sister and herself without rocking the boat, without causing any waves, and she's just naturally a very cautious person. I think because of that, people don't really love her as much, just because she's just very overprotective, telling us don't do this, don't do that, or we shouldn't do this, or it's for your own good, kind of, but not in a mean, bitchy way, but more in a I'm just trying to do what's necessary to keep you safe, but keep us both safe. But they really are very loyal to each other throughout the whole trilogy and really care about each other. You have Scarlet, who's spontaneous and fun, is trying also to do what's best for them, but she's also willing to take a risk, but she's not going to risk her sister's life, and she's not gonna. And her intentions to finally trying to write to Legend one last time is to protect her sister from making a big mistake and marrying a complete stranger who could be a total jerk and horrible, especially because he's paid for their father. She has trust issues, and has an issue with laying her heart to someone, and she's given her heart to someone, and she doesn't believe in love like Scarlet does. Scarlet has hopes and dreams and believes in love, and but she's also not gonna, fall for anybody. And while Stella just, not necessarily falls in love, but she just flirts with a lot of guys and maybe has less deep feelings for a guy, but it's not like she's overly conscious about it. She, like I said, she likes taking risks. But despite their differences, like I said, they really care about it and will fight for each other and will do anything to protect each other, even if it means putting their own lives at risk. And they kind of remind me a little bit. They remind me of Dean and Sam Winchester from Supernatural. Similar, like, which I guess I mean, and just that relationship, that dynamic. And then the other one that I don't have, I could show. I mean, I do have a that big Barnes and Noble leather-bound bind-up, the omnibus edition, but then that's a heavy book, and I don't know if I want to bring that all over just for one story, just to show you one story. But the Sisters and Sensibility, again, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Donatello and Scarlet, where the sisters are completely different and complete opposites of each other. Actually, it's kind of a similar situation where you have a very reserved, cautious Eleanor, and then Marianne's the romantic, passionate one that is a risk taker, and she has dreams. And while Eleanor is is romantic, but in a very cautious way, very reserved kind of way. She doesn't express her feelings. So they're very similar. And then I'm also reading, and also the book I'm currently reading right now that's not a fantasy, The Little Friend. You have a pair of sisters who are the same way. One of them is, who are complete opposites of each other, but they really care about each other and are doing it, and, they want to help each other. But they also don't always know what's best. They think they know what's best for each other, but they don't, not really. They don't really understand that. They don't understand each other, but they do love each other. And then here's the one that I can show you, that I do have a copy of, is The Sisters in Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, I'm not talking about the romance, I'm talking about the sisters. Jane and Elizabeth Bennet. Lizzie, have a very sweet relationship. And, like, when Mr. Darcy is like, I'm rejecting, kind of tries to get Bingley to walk away from Jane because he doesn't trust her and because she doesn't express her feelings as openly, so he doesn't believe that she loves the guy. And Lizzie fiercely defends her sister. She's like, look, that's just how my sister is. She's not good. She doesn't express her emotions openly. It doesn't mean that she doesn't love your friend. She just is very different. She protects her sister more than anything. And Jane is very loyal to Lizzie. But they're also they're also like the other sisters I've talked about. I notice that a lot of books do that when it comes to siblings. They have the trope of siblings being opposites of each other, which I guess is true, because my sister Jessica, we're very different from each other. We're opposites. I don't know if we're opposites, because we have a lot of similar things to each other. Like, I feel like I do try to be, when I was younger, I did try to follow my sister around and be like her. But as I've gotten older, my interests have changed, and I'm not as exactly like her as I used to be. But we still are very similar in ways. So, and the same thing, and one probably that is a lot more accurate to my relationship with my sister is probably Buffy and Dawn Summers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's probably a lot closer. I don't know if I would be considered as annoying, because a lot of people get annoyed by Dawn, Buffy's younger sister, because she screams a lot. She's always getting into trouble. Buffy always has to rescue her. She can be very bratty a lot of times. I don't know if I was a character in a show or a book, I don't know if people would feel the same way about me. Probably. I don't know, though. That's an interesting cover choice. Some of these cover some of the artwork on these, that the arts they will pick for these covers is very interesting. And I don't know, I'm having trouble figuring out how it reflects the story. Like, is this supposed to be the Bennet sisters? Like Lizzie and Jane? And maybe that's either their father. It's probably their father. Or it's probably supposed to be their father anyway. Like, some of the covers, I look at some of the artwork, I'm like, that doesn't really reflect the main character or what I've heard about the main character. Because there was at least one book that I hadn't read the book, but I was looking at the painting, and I've heard a lot of things about it and the type of person the main character is, and it's like, that painting doesn't really reflect that what I've heard about the character. It's actually the same painting that is used on one of the copies, the editions of Jane Eyre, where it fits Jane Eyre. The painting, it's the one with the girl holding her hair in a braid, just kind of clutching her braid, and maybe probably still kind of playing with it a little bit, like probably tugging on it if there was motion in the artwork. And I think they use it for another, I can't remember which one. Like maybe Madame Bovary or something, where basically there's a woman who manipulates men. And that cover just did not fit. Like, it fits Jane Eyre, but it doesn't fit the other one, whatever the other one really was. Because I don't remember what it was. Which I know it was one where the woman, the female lead, is a very manipulator and does whatever she can to get by, to survive in the world. Something like that. But anyway, but yeah, but anyway, back to the question. So yeah, Jane and Lizzie Bennet, another great pair of sisters. Like I said, I always stick to, so far, all my examples, of course, are about sisters. Even though it's a sibling relationship, so I could probably include other sibling relationships on here that are not just sisters. But these are the first ones that came to mind, and that's probably because, I'm thinking I'm a sister, and so I'm picking ones about sisters. With the exception of Winter Trilogy, which has a story. And also, I think I was thinking because it's Anna and Elsa from Frozen, that I figure it makes sense to show the sibling relationships between two sisters. Okay, but I am sure there's a lot of great brother-sister relationship or other brother relationships, too, in books. I just can't think of any at the moment. Okay, so the last Disney princess we're going to talk about is Tiana, a character who puts her dreams before romance. And I said the Winter Night Trilogy. So again, I don't have it, and I don't know how to put it on the screen. But Vasya she gets the opportunity to be with the man or the guy that she loves, the man that she loves, and I'm just going to say for the sake of argument, man, because he's man-shaped. But he's kind of beyond a man. But anyway, he gives an opportunity for them to run away together and be with each other forever because he's an entity of winter. He's a man of the winter. He's the winter king demon or whatever. And she's like, no, I want to protect my family. And maybe this isn't technically her dreams, but she's fighting for her family and protecting and taking care of her family and taking care of her people and her kingdom and, her family. And like I said, it's debatable if you consider that someone's dream. But again, I feel like I said, this girl gives up the chance at love to take care of her family and to be there for her family. Okay, so that is the Disney Princess tag. If you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to see when I post new videos. Continue wearing your mask, because unfortunately this pandemic is not over yet, which also means continue to stay 6 feet apart from people. And even if you don't believe in this, because apparently there are some people still will not wear a mask and still think they're invincible or don't believe that this thing exists and will continue to, not wear a mask. Even if you feel that way, do it for us. The masks are not just to protect ourselves. The masks are to protect everyone else around you. At least be considerate, because even if you yourself don't think it exists and don't really care, consider the other people. Consider everyone else care. Most people do care. And most people realize that this is real, this is not going away. Yes, we're starting to get vaccines, but it still hasn't gone away, and the vaccines are just helping us to fight it off. And I hope you are being kind to everyone else, not just in the fact that you're respecting people wanting to, stay healthy and not get this virus, but also just being kind, because this past year has been tough for a lot of people. A lot of groups of people have experienced a lot of inequality and unfairness and ill treatment. So just be kind to people, respect people. And as always, I hope you're enjoying your reading and having a good first month of this new year. Hopefully things will be a lot better this year. Bye!